So hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today this is the short video for the revision of external iliac branch of the main caudal aorta or the abdominal artery which supply to the hind leg. So first start with the theoretical part. External iliac. So the external iliac emerges from the quadrifurcation of the abdominal artery or the caudal aorta. It supplies to the hind leg by giving its first branch named as deep circumflex iliac. The second branch is dorsal femoral. This dorsal femoral bifurcate and give two main branches are median circumflex femoral and pudendo epigastric. Now the pudendo epigastric divided into two parts or gives two branches. First, posterior abdominis and the external pudendal. The third branch is lateral circumflex femoral. The fourth branch is saphenous, which gives two branches, medial plantar and lateral plantar. Then the fifth branch is caudal femoral. Sixth branch is genicular. Seventh branch is popliteus or popliteal. The popliteal gives two branches, posterior tibial, anterior tibial. The eighth branch is dorsal pedal, which gives a branch known as proximal perforating branch या artery. The ninth one is dorsal metatarsal, which gives a branch distal perforating branch या artery. Now this continues to the dorsal metacarpal continues to dorsal common digital. The dorsal common digital then bifurcate to the digits and supply to the digits. Now this is the overview or theoretical part. Here it is very easy because as the name suggests, mostly muscle is belong to that group, that region, and the name suggests which muscle is supplied by them. The deep circumflex iliac. It means that it is on the deeper side circumflex. It somehow turns around and supply to iliac region muscles. It means as when we draw the diagram, it will more clear to you where is the position and which type of muscle it will supply. So before watching this video, you have to or you should keep in mind the muscles of hind limbs and their origin and insertions. So you can correlate these where it supplies. So first of all, deep circumflex, it is the first branch which emerges from the external iliac. Second is dorsal femoral, which gives two, which is median circumflex femoral, as the name femoral, around to the femur part, femur bone. So it is dorsal femoral, it is on the dorsal aspect of the femur, and the median circumflex femoral, it is that it will goes to the median aspect of the femur, and circumflex it turns, it emerges from lateral, but it turns and goes to the median aspect of the femur, where it's applied to the median aspect of muscles of the femur. And the pudendo-epigastric means it goes to the abdomen region and supplies by branching. First, the posterior abdominis. Posterior abdominis, it supplies to the posterior part of the abdomen. As you know that the abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity are divided by an imaginary line. There is no such any structure or skeleton between these lines. So it goes to the abdomen and supply to the posterior part of the abdomen, and the external pudendals which extends to the genital parts and supply, if there is a male, it supplies to the scrotum and extends to the prepuce. And anastomos is the internal thoracic artery of axillary artery we had studied before, and we have a separate video for that. And if it is female, then external pudendal supply to the mammary gland or to the udder. Now, the lateral circumflex femoral is the name suggests the lateral. It will be on the lateral aspect. Circumflex, it turns and supply to the lateral aspect of the femur part. Now, the fourth is saphenous. Saphenous emerges and goes through the calcis tubercle of the fibular tarsal and bifurcated. One branch goes to the medial aspect known as medial plantar, and one branch goes to the lateral aspect of the hind limb known as lateral plantar. The fifth one is caudal femoral, which emerges caudally and goes and bifurcate one branch to the above part and one branch to the below. So the above one is known as ascending, and the below is descending. Now the genicular is the sixth branch which emerges cranially and goes to the condylar part or patellar. It goes to the stifle joint where it's supplied to the patella, the lateral aspect of muscles. The seventh one is the popliteal muscle, popliteal artery. Not we can say that it is a separate branch from iliac. It is a extension, and between the area it is known as popliteal, because in this region we can found the popliteus muscle. So we can name it as popliteal muscle. It branches. Its first branch is posterior tibial, which goes to the posterior to the tibia, and one branch is anterior to the tibial known as anterior tibial. This anterior tibial continues extended, and as it goes to different region, the name will be changed. The anteriority will continue, and at the starting of the tarsal part of face, or at the distal extremity of the tibia, it is known as dorsal pedal. The dorsal pedals gives some retail to the tarsal bones and then continues and give an extra branch known as proximal perforating artery, which perforate to the proximal vascular foramen of the metatarsal and goes inward and anastomoses with the medial and lateral plantar and form an arc which is known as proximal plantar arch. Now the dorsal pedal continues and near to the distal extremity of the metatarsal, it is known as dorsal metatarsal artery, which give an extra branch which goes in the distal vascular foramen of the metatarsal, known as distal perforating branch or artery, which again joins with the lateral and medial plantar and form an arch known as distal plantar arch. Now the dorsal metatarsal continues to supply the digit parts, so known as dorsal common digital, which again bifurcate as the ox to the two limbs and axial, abaxial as it continues. So this is all about the theoretical part. Now we come to the diagram, how to draw or how can we locate these branches theoretically by creating an imagination which type of muscles it supplies and how its location in the handling. So let's draw. You know about the caudal aorta. Where is the position of quadrifurcation? The quadrifurcation of the caudal aorta is take place at the 5th or 6th lumbar vertebrae junction. So let's make the diagram. Assume that the cranial part or the head of the cattle is on my left side and the caudal part or the tail is on my right side. So I'm making the pelvic cavity or pelvic inlet. This is the 5th lumbar vertebrae and this is the 6th lumbar vertebrae and this is the sacrum and here the ilium, the greater ischiatic notch, the spine, the lesser ischiatic notch and the tuber ischii. Here the concavity, again the concavity, the acetabular cavity, still concavity and the tuber ischii. This is the os cocci. This is the acetabular cavity where the head of the humerus articulate. This is the roof of the pelvic cavity is formed by the 5th, 6th or the sacral bone. Here the coccygeal vertebra. Okay. Now we are forming the head of the humerus. You can see that it is the lateral part which is placed obliquely downward and forward. These are the trochlea. This is the condyles. These are the trochlea, and here is its patella. Base is upward, apex is downward. This is the condyles. This is the supracondylar fossa on the lateral aspect. Now the tibia, obliquely downward and backward. Now the tarsals. These are the fibular tarsal. 1 central, 4th, 2, 3, one is free, tibial tarsal, fibular tarsal. These are the part of bones. We have made a different video. Check. This is the metatarsal. I have some space problem, so try to make it. This is the metatarsal. This is first digit, second and third digit. These are the sesamoid bones. So this is the hind portion of the cattle. If you can see, this is the stifle joint, and near the stifle joint, this is the flank region, and here, if it is male, it have testic scrotum, and if it is female, it have udder. It have udder, and the line continues to the abdominal wall. It is male, it is here, it is profuse. Don't confuse by this. I am making both the sections in same diagram to understand. We take it one by one. As I mentioned you, this part is of female, which in different color. This part is of female, and the black one is of male. Obviously, so this is the bony structure of pelvic cavity. It is the roof, the lateral aspect of the hind. Now we come to the external iliac branches. So as I told you, the quadrivercation is at the 5th or 6th lumbar vertebrae. The external iliac extends and turn around over it. No, it comes. Okay. Now it goes medially and continue as it bifurcate. This is the main branch which continue as this, and different branches will emerge out from this branch. So we are taking one by one the branches. The first branch, which is emerged from this area, known as deep circumflex iliac. Known as deep circumflex iliac. The second branch emerges out from here and goes medially after branching, and a branch goes cranially by giving a branch in male here, in female here, male here also, and continue. I had made that the main branch is this. A branch emerges from here is deep circumflex iliac, which supplied to the muscles emerging from the tubercocci, known as internal oblique abdominis muscles, transversus abdominis muscles, external or abdominal part of the muscle, or the tensor fascia lata muscles, different muscles it will supply. Now the second branch is dorsal femoral. This portion is dorsal femoral. Which bifurcate and gives the branch known as median, circumflex femoral. The other branch is pudendal epigastric. The pudendal epigastric continue cranially, and in male, if it is male, take these two glands differently. If it is male, it gives supply to the scrotum, known as external pudendal. Or if it is female, it gives supply to the mammary gland, which is also known as external pudendal. But a new branch, the other branch which supply to the posterior part of abdomen, known as posterior abdominis. So what I am telling you, that the dorsal femoral gives two branches. First is medial circumflex femoral, which goes medial to the femur and gives supply to the medial aspect of the muscle, known as sartorius muscle, gracilis muscle, pectilis muscle, adductor muscle, semimembranosus muscle. It goes upward, it gives external obturator muscle, internal obturator muscles, and different medial aspect muscle it gives supply. Now the pudendal-epigastric muscle, it bifurcates and give two branches. The first branch is posterior abdominis, and the name suggests it gives supply to the, because here it is the abdominal cavity and here is the pelvic cavity and it is the abdominal cavity. It gives supply to the posterior part of the abdomen. And the other branch is external pudendal, which gives supply to the genital organs. If it is female, there is only mammary gland or the udder part. It gives supply to the udder part. And it is male, then it gives to the scrotum. Then it continues to the profuse part of the penis. Then it continues further and anastomose with the internal thoracic branch of the axillary. Now, after the dorsal femoral, an extra branch emerges out, known as lateral circumflex femoral. Lateral circumflex femoral. As I made this is the lateral aspect. So this circumflex, it turns over and supply to the lateral aspect of muscles. So lateral aspect of muscles are tensor fascia lata, bicep femoris, superficial gluteal, deep gluteal, medial gluteal. Superficial gluteal is absent in ox, but deep gluteal, medial gluteal, and semitendinosus. So different type of lateral aspect of muscle it will supply. Now the next is saphenous. Saphenous is emerged from this region and goes downward to the fibular tarsal. Here it bifurcates and goes, one goes medially, and other goes laterally. And here at the third digit, it bifurcates. The middle one goes downward medially, and at the last it also bifurcates for digital supply. Now this saphenous Syphilis branch goes to the calcis tubercle, calcaneal tubercle, or point of hock of the fibular tarsal, and the two bifurcation is known as medial plantar or lateral plantar. You can see that I have told you in the theoretical part that there is an arch formation. I will tell you slowly here when we come to the main root. After the Syphilis, an extra branch emerges out from here cranially and supplied to this region, the condyles, the patellar region. This, I'm highlighting this because it is small, so you have problem to visible it. I'm supplying. This is supplied to the lateral aspect of the condyles, patellar ligaments, and other muscles which are present in this region. Now, the region after this, one extra branch emerged out after glycinus is from here, is caudal femoral. It goes one branch upward and one branch downward. The caudal femoral bifurcate give ascending branch and descending branch. Now, the region which is after the caudal femoral is this. This green part is in the region where the popliteus muscle is present, and that's why this region and this part of the main artery is known as popliteal artery. So this is popliteal artery, which gives two branches. One branch to the posterior aspect of the tibia is known as posterior tibial, and medially extends to the anterior part of the tibia known as anterior tibial. The anterior tibial supply to the anterior part of the muscles, and the posterior tibial supply to the posterior aspect of the muscles. If you able to guess, the name are gastrocnemius, soleus, and different type of muscles which are present at the posterior aspect of tibia. It supplies, and at the distal extremity of the tibia, this region, just before to the tarsal part of face, this green part is, its name changes as known as dorsal pedal, This part continues to the near to the distal extremity, and before near the proximal extremity of the metatarsal, it gives a branch. Which enters in the proximal vascular foramen of the metatarsal and joins with the lateral pedal and medial pedal and form an arch known as proximal plantar arch, which is formed by the three veins, the medial plantar, the lateral plantar, and the proximal perforating branch of dorsal pedal. Now the dorsal pedal continues, but near to the distal extremity of the metatarsal, its name changes and known as dorsal metatarsal, which gives a branch and extend downward, which again anastomose or joins with the lateral medial plantar and form the distal plantar arch, which is formed by the fusion of three or anastomose of three arteries known as medial plantar, lateral plantar, and distal perforating branch or artery of the dorsal metatarsal. Now the dorsal metatarsal extend downward and bifurcate dorsally and give supply to the digits. So its name changes as known as dorsal common digital. And the on the plantar side or on the caudal side, the medial plantar and the lateral plantar also bifurcate and supply to the digit. So these are the digital arteries, which bifurcate as the digit shape, size or type.